We don't need your kind contaminating our elite program. The words slice through the air as an older black man in civilian clothes steps onto the SEAL training grounds. The lead instructor's face contorts with disgust. "Who let him in here?" he barks, jabbing a finger at the visitor. Trainees freeze, eyes locked on the confrontation. The instructor stalks forward, circling his prey. "This facility trains warriors, not janitors," he snaps, swatting the visitor's folder to the ground. Papers scatter in the wind. When the man kneels to gather them, the instructor slams his boot onto the documents. "I asked you a question. Who authorized this intrusion?" The visitor remains silent, dignified despite the humiliation as trainees exchange smirks. The man's weathered hands pause over the scattered papers, revealing a glimpse of faded ink beneath his sleeve. Earlier that morning, Samuel Thomas, 62, arrives at Naval Special Warfare Command. His military haircut has long grown out, replaced by salt and pepper hair and a neatly trimmed beard. The security checkpoint guard scans his visitor badge with poorly concealed suspicion. "You sure you're in the right place?" The guard's tone suggests Samuel has taken a wrong turn. Samuel simply nods, accepting his pass without comment. Across the base, Lieutenant Commander Alexander Reed briefs his SEAL trainees on the day's evolution. At 38, Reed's perfect record of producing elite operators makes him untouchable in the command structure. His phone vibrates with a notification about a civilian observer approved by headquarters. His jaw tightens as he reads. "Not on my training field," he mutters, pocketing the phone. Samuel walks across the base, feeling eyes track his every move. Young officers step aside but don't salute. A yeoman points him toward the training grounds with barely concealed disdain. Samuel clutches his folder of authorization papers closer, containing his orders and curriculum review materials. Reed spots the visitor approaching from across the field. "Maintain formation," he orders the trainees before walking to intercept. He deliberately stands tall, using his height advantage to intimidate. "This is a restricted area," Reed states without introducing himself. Samuel extends his visitor badge. "Samuel Thomas, here to observe Training Block 4 on direct orders from command." Reed barely glances at the credentials. "There must be some mistake. We don't have civilian observers for this evolution." His emphasis on civilian carries unmistakable implications. Trainees nearby exchange glances. One whispers to another. Samuel notices but maintains his composure, opening his folder to show the authorization. "No mistake, Lieutenant Commander. I'm expected." Reed snatches the paper, scans it, then hands it back with a tight smile. "Wait here." He walks away, making a call. Samuel stands alone on the edge of the training area as trainees stare and whisper. Their judgments form before he's spoken a word. Reed returns. "Command confirms you're authorized to observe, but you'll stay at the perimeter. Touch nothing. Speak to no one." He gestures to a spot far from the action, in the hot sun with no shade. Samuel nods once, moving to the designated area without complaint. One trainee notices Samuel's hands, calloused and scarred in ways that don't match a civilian observer's profile. Midday sun beats down as Samuel takes notes on the training. Reed approaches, deliberately kicking up dust with each step. His shadow falls across Samuel's notebook. "Finding our methods primitive, Mr. Thomas?" His tone makes the respectful address sound like an insult. "On the contrary," Samuel replies, voice steady and deep. "The adaptations to the original protocol show innovation." Reed's eyes narrow. "Original protocol? You speak like you know something about this training?" "Just observations," Samuel responds, returning to his notes. Reed steps closer, invading Samuel's space. "What exactly is your role here? What department sent you?" Samuel meets his gaze. "Program Assessment Division." "Never heard of it." Reed crosses his arms. "What qualifies a civilian to assess SEAL training?" Samuel's answer is measured. Experience. Reed laughs, turning to make sure nearby trainees hear. Experience? Did you read a book about us, Mr. Thomas? Watch a documentary? Samuel remains silent, which further aggravates Reed. When you write your little report, be sure to note that we maintain the highest standards here. Standards that have produced America's elite warriors for decades. Reed emphasizes the word elite while looking Samuel up and down. Trainee Wilson approaches with a water bottle. He's younger than most, with a quiet confidence that sets him apart. Sir, I thought the observer might need water. Reed intercepts the bottle. That's not necessary. Mr. Thomas isn't one of us. He hasn't earned it. Reed places the water bottle just out of Samuel's reach. If he wants it, he can qualify for it, like everyone else here. Samuel makes no move for the water. Reed smirks. That's what I thought. He knocks the bottle over with his boot, spilling it. Oops. Wilson, get back to your station. As Wilson retreats, he glances back at Samuel apologetically. Samuel gives him a nearly imperceptible nod of understanding. Reed leans in, voice low but threatening. Let me be clear. Your presence disrupts my training. Whatever box you're checking off for headquarters, check it and leave. As Reed walks away, Samuel pulls out his phone and checks the time, exactly 1300 hours, then sends a single text message. Confirmed. Afternoon training shifts to the obstacle course. Reed gathers the trainees in formation with Samuel still observing from the periphery. The sun beats mercilessly on the exposed training ground. Today we separate the warriors from the watchers, Reed announces, looking directly at Samuel. Those who can from those who can't. Reed approaches Samuel, gesturing for him to join the group. Mr. Thomas, since you're so interested in our training, why don't you demonstrate the course for us? His smile doesn't reach his eyes. Samuel shakes his head. I'm here to observe only. Afraid? Reed challenges. Or just incapable? Trainees shift uncomfortably. Wilson stares at his boots. It's not appropriate, Samuel responds. Reed addresses the trainees. Take note. This is the difference between those who do and those who judge from the sidelines. He turns back to Samuel. At minimum, show us you can handle the basic physical test. 10 push-ups. Surely a man assessing SEAL training can manage that. The trap is obvious. Either attempt and likely fail publicly, or refuse and confirm Reed's narrative. Samuel sets his folder down. Very well. Reed's surprise quickly shifts to anticipation. He motions for trainees to gather around as Samuel gets into position. Count them out, men. Samuel begins perfect form push-ups. The trainees count. At 5, Reed places his boot on Samuel's back. Standard weight test, he says innocently. Samuel continues, pace unchanged. At 8, Reed adds pressure. Samuel's arms shake, but he completes 10. When he stands, Reed isn't satisfied. That was barely passing for a civilian. Let's try something more authentic to the training you're assessing. Reed points to a mud pit. Cross that. Standard requirement. Samuel looks at the pit, then at his clothes. Problem? Reed asks. It's just part of the job, right? Unless this is beyond your experience. Samuel walks toward the pit. Trainees exchange uncomfortable glances. Wilson steps forward. Sir, regulation says... I know the regulations, trainee. Reed cuts him off. Mr. Thomas insists on being here. He should understand what we do. Samuel stands at the edge of the pit. Reed calls out, You can admit it's too much for you. No shame in knowing your limitations. Samuel steps into the mud. His dress shoes sink. He takes another step, then another, moving deliberately. Halfway across, he slips and falls to one knee, mud soaking his pants and shirt. Laughter erupts from some trainees. Reed smirks. Samuel rises, continues crossing, and emerges on the other side covered in mud but composed. He stands tall, facing Reed, Reed slow claps. Congratulations. You've completed what our trainees do before breakfast. He turns to the group. This is why we train so hard, so we don't end up... He gestures at Samuel's mud-covered form. Like this. Samuel walks back to retrieve his folder, dignity intact despite his appearance. As Samuel wipes mud from his hands, his sleeve pulls back, revealing more of the tattoo, distinctly military in design. Samuel finds the base restroom. He locks the door, breathes deeply, controlling his anger. He washes mud from his hands and face, then examines his ruined clothes. In the mirror, his eyes show not defeat, but determination. He pulls out his phone, dials a number from memory. Admiral, it's Thomas. His voice transforms, commanding. Situation assessment complete. Exactly as reported. Evidence secured. He listens. Yes, sir. Proceeding to Phase 2. He ends the call, straightens his mud-stained shirt, and returns to the field. Meanwhile, Reed gathers senior trainees. That observer is bad news. Headquarters sending civilians to judge us shows lack of trust. We need to make sure his report reflects our standards. Senior trainee Parker nods. What do you need, Commander? Make sure his observations are limited. Technical difficulties with monitoring equipment. Restricted areas suddenly off limits. Nothing overt. Reed's instructions are clear. Wilson speaks up. Sir, is this authorized by command? Reed fixes him with a stare. Are you questioning my authority, trainee? No, sir, Wilson backpedals. Just clarifying protocol. Protocol is what I say it is, Reed responds. Thomas doesn't belong here. We're just helping him understand that. Samuel returns to find his observation post dismantled. Equipment malfunction, a trainee informs him without making eye contact. You'll need to observe from the secondary position. He points to an area with no view of critical training components. Samuel surveys the situation, then walks toward his original position. Sir, you can't go there, the trainee calls after him. Samuel continues walking. My authorization permits full access. Reed intercepts him. There's been a change. Safety concerns. What concerns? Samuel asks. Above your clearance level, Reed retorts. Samuel stands his ground. My clearance allows full access to this training evolution, Lieutenant Commander. Reed's expression darkens. You're either confused or deliberately obstructive, Mr. Thomas. Either way, you're interfering with national security training. I'm following orders, Samuel replies. Same as you should be. Reed steps closer. Listen carefully. Whatever paper you have doesn't trump my authority on this field. You will observe from where I tell you, or you won't observe at all. Samuel considers this ultimatum, then nods once. I understand completely, Commander Reed. Something in his tone makes Reed uneasy. Samuel moves to the restricted position but pulls out his phone again, typing a message. He takes photos of the restricted areas from his limited vantage point. Reed watches Samuel documenting the restrictions and makes a call of his own. We need to accelerate the timetable. He's documenting everything. Samuel attempts to observe afternoon tactical drills. A trainee approaches, expression carefully neutral. Commander Reed requests your credentials again. New security protocol. Samuel hands over his visitor badge. The trainee leaves with it. Minutes pass. No return. Samuel approaches the training area without his badge. Reed intercepts him, eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Restricted area. Where's your credentials? Your trainee took them, Samuel explains, voice even. Reed feigns confusion. None of my men would do that. You must have misplaced it. I gave it to the trainee you sent, Samuel says evenly. Are you accusing my men of theft? Reed's voice rises, drawing attention from nearby personnel. Samuel remains calm. I'm stating facts. You requested my credentials. I did no such thing. Reed signals to security. This civilian has lost his credentials and is attempting to access restricted areas. 2 security personnel approach. Sir, you'll need to come with us. Samuel doesn't resist. Contact Admiral Harrington's office immediately. Reed laughs. The Admiral's office? That's ambitious. The security officers exchange looks, but follow protocol. We'll sort this out at the security office, sir. At security, Samuel sits calmly while officers verify his identity. The base security chief enters, looking flustered. Mr. Thomas, we've confirmed your authorization. Your new credentials are being processed. Reed arrives, surprise evident when he sees the chief's deferential tone. Chief, this man was in restricted areas without proper credentials. The chief hesitates. His authorization checks out, Commander. Full access granted by command. Reed's jaw tightens. There must be some mistake. No civilian gets unrestricted access to SEAL training. These orders come from above my pay grade, the chief responds. Mr. Thomas has been cleared to resume his observation. Reed follows Samuel out. This isn't over. Whatever game you're playing won't work. Samuel turns to him. This isn't a game, Commander. You don't belong here, Reed hisses. Men like you wouldn't last a day in real training. Men like me? Samuel raises an eyebrow. Reed backpedals slightly. Civilians, bureaucrats, paper pushers. Samuel nods slowly. I see. Thank you for clarifying. As Samuel walks away, he sends another text. Proceeding to final verification. Target fully engaged. Evening approaches. Samuel observes the trainees' mess hall from a corner table, eating alone. Reed enters with senior instructors, their conversation stopping when they spot him. Reed approaches Samuel's table. Enjoying our hospitality, Mr. Thomas? The food is adequate, Samuel responds. Reed sits uninvited. You've caused quite a stir today. My men have training to complete without distractions. Your men seem capable of focus under pressure, Samuel observes. A crucial SEAL quality. What would you know about SEAL qualities? Reed challenges. Samuel takes another bite. Observation offers insight. Reed leans forward. Let's be direct. Whatever you're reporting back won't change anything. This program has produced America's finest warriors for generations. Every program benefits from objective assessment, Samuel replies. Objective? Reed scoffs. You came here with an agenda. We all know it. And what agenda is that? Samuel asks. Reed chooses his words carefully. Let's call it progressive adjustment to traditional standards. Samuel sets down his fork. You believe I'm here to lower standards? Aren't you? Reed doesn't hide his contempt. My only concern is maintaining the highest standards, Samuel responds. Then we agree, Reed says with false congeniality. The standards that built this program should remain untouched. Standards, yes, Samuel nods. Methods, however, evolve. Reed's expression hardens. The methods that break weak men and forge strong ones don't need evolution. Interesting perspective. Samuel makes a note in his book. Reed slams his hand on the table. Don't twist my words in your report. I record only what I observe, Samuel says. Reed stands. Just remember, Mr. Thomas, long after you file your report and move on to disrupt some other program, we'll still be here, training real warriors. As Reed walks away, Wilson approaches Samuel's table. Sir, I wanted to apologize for today. No apology needed, trainee, Samuel assures him. It's not right what happened, Wilson continues, keeping his voice low. Samuel studies him. Do you always stand up for what's right? I try to, sir, Wilson responds. That's the true measure of a warrior, Samuel tells him. Unknown to both men, Reed watches their interaction from across the room, his expression darkening as he makes another call. Dawn breaks over the base. Samuel arrives to find the training area locked down. A young ensign blocks his path. Sorry, sir. Surprise inspection. No observers allowed. Samuel checks his watch. No inspection was scheduled. Emergency protocol, sir, the ensign explains nervously. Commander's orders. Samuel nods. I understand. Please inform Commander Reed I'll be observing from the command center instead. The ensign pales. Sir, the command center is also restricted during inspections. Then where am I permitted to observe? Samuel asks. Commander suggested the visitor center until the inspection concludes. The visitor center, off-site and disconnected from training activities. Samuel makes another note. When will the inspection conclude? He asks. The ensign shifts uncomfortably. Uncertain, sir. Could be all day. Samuel turns away, then pauses. Your name, Ensign? Taylor, sir. Thank you for your honesty, Ensign Taylor. Instead of heading to the visitor center, Samuel walks to the base commander's office. The secretary looks surprised. Mr. Thomas, we weren't expecting you. I need to speak with Captain Sullivan immediately, Samuel states. The captain is in meetings all morning, she responds. This concerns direct interference with a command-authorized assessment, Samuel explains. The secretary hesitates, then picks up the phone. After a brief conversation, she nods. The captain will see you now. Inside, Captain Sullivan rises from behind his desk. Mr. Thomas, what brings you here? Samuel explains the situation. Sullivan frowns. No inspection was authorized for today. That's what I suspected, Samuel replies. Sullivan picks up his phone. Get me Lieutenant Commander Reed immediately. Minutes later, Reed enters, stopping short when he sees Samuel. Captain, I wasn't informed you were meeting with Mr. Thomas. Explain the unauthorized inspection lockdown, Sullivan demands. Reed recovers quickly. Standard readiness drill, sir. Keeping the men sharp. Without proper notification to command? Sullivan questions. A communication oversight, Reed offers. I take full responsibility. Sullivan's displeasure is evident. Lift the lockdown immediately. Mr. Thomas has full authorization to continue his assessment. Reed salutes. Yes, sir. As they leave the office, Reed mutters to Samuel, You're making powerful enemies. Samuel meets his gaze. No, Commander, I'm identifying them. As Samuel walks back to the training area, his phone rings. Admiral, the situation has escalated exactly as predicted. Ready for final phase. Mid-morning, the trainees assemble for water exercises. Samuel stands at the edge of the training pool, observing. Reed approaches, his demeanor falsely professional for the benefit of nearby officers. Mr. Thomas, for safety reasons, all observers must remain behind the yellow line during water exercises. He points to a line that would place Samuel too far to properly observe. My authorization allows, Samuel begins. Your authorization doesn't supersede safety protocols, Reed interrupts. Behind the line, or you'll be removed. Samuel holds his ground. Show me the regulation. Reed steps closer. Listen carefully. This is your last warning. Step back, or I'll have you escorted off my training ground. Samuel doesn't move. I believe you're mistaken about whose training ground this is, Commander. Reed signals to two instructors. Remove Mr. Thomas from the pool area. The instructors approach hesitantly. One reaches for Samuel's arm. Sir, please come with us. Samuel remains perfectly still. Before you touch me, you should know exactly who you're about to put hands on. Something in his tone makes the instructor pause. Reed scoffs. Another empty threat? Who exactly do you think you are? Samuel slowly rolls up his sleeve, revealing a faded tattoo, the seal trident. Not just any trident, but one with a special marking only the most senior operators would recognize. Trainee Wilson sees it first. His eyes widen. Sir, that's a Command Master Chief's trident. Reed looks confused, then dismissive. Anyone can get a tattoo. An older instructor steps forward, studying the tattoo and then Samuel's face. Recognition dawns. Holy shit! You're Silent Sam Thomas. The name ripples through the gathered men. Even Reed looks uncertain now. Samuel's demeanor shifts subtly. His posture straightens. His voice deepens with natural authority. Command Master Chief Samuel Thomas, Naval Special Warfare, retired. The older instructor stands at attention. Master Chief Thomas led the counter-terror operation in Mogadishu in '93. Earned the Navy Cross. He was Bud's training director for a decade. Reed's face drains of color. Samuel continues, voice calm but carrying power. I've completed more SEAL operations than everyone in this pool combined. I've trained 3 generations of operators, including your commanding officer, Captain Sullivan. He turns to the trainees. I'm not here to lower standards. I'm here because reports reached command about discriminatory practices undermining the integrity of this program. Phones appear as several instructors make urgent calls. Reed attempts recovery. With all due respect, Master Chief, your era of service is past. Modern warfare requires warriors of character. Samuel cuts him off. Men and women who uphold our values under pressure, who reject bigotry and bias as threats to unit cohesion. Samuel addresses the group. I didn't come here announcing my rank or record because I wanted to see how this program treats people based on appearance alone. He looks directly at Reed. You showed me exactly what I came to verify. The base commander, Captain Sullivan, hurries to the scene. Master Chief Thomas, Admiral Harrington informed me of your full identity only moments ago. Apologies for the secrecy, Captain, Samuel responds. It was necessary. Sullivan nods grimly. I understand. Commander Reed, report to my office immediately. As Reed stands stunned, Wilson approaches Samuel. Master Chief, your Operation Desert Storm extraction is legendary at the Academy. They teach it as a case study in leadership under fire. Samuel shakes Wilson's hand. The lesson worth learning is that we judge warriors by their actions, not appearances. As Reed is escorted away, Samuel receives a call. Admiral Harrington for you, Master Chief. He says it's time for Phase 3. Captain Sullivan's office transforms into an impromptu war room. Samuel sits with Sullivan while video screens display Admiral Harrington and representatives from the Judge Advocate General's office. The gravity of the situation hangs in the air, thick and palpable. The evidence is conclusive, Samuel reports, sliding a digital tablet across the table to Sullivan. Systematic discrimination, abuse of authority, falsification of training records, and deliberate undermining of diversity initiatives. All documented and time-stamped. Sullivan scrolls through the files, his expression growing increasingly grave. How widespread is this cancer? Concentrated around Reed and 5 senior instructors, Samuel explains. They've created a toxic subculture that contradicts Navy core values. The pattern shows increasing boldness over the past 18 months. Admiral Harrington speaks from the screen, his voice commanding attention. Captain Sullivan, I want to be crystal clear. This operation was authorized at the highest levels after multiple reports reached us through anonymous channels. We needed unimpeachable evidence, which is why Master Chief Thomas agreed to come out of retirement for this assessment. Sullivan turns to Samuel, regret etched across his features. The mud pit, the credentials. I should have intervened when I saw the signs. You weren't meant to, Samuel assures him. Your reaction needed to be genuine. If Reed suspected a coordinated investigation, we'd never have exposed the full extent of the problem. The JAG officer, Commander Alvarez, leans forward on screen. We have sufficient evidence for immediate administrative action and potential court-martial for Commander Reed. The documentation Master Chief Thomas collected reveals not just today's incidents, but a pattern of behavior that violates multiple regulations and directly contradicts the Navy's inclusivity directives. In another room across the base, Reed sits rigidly across from his Navy-appointed attorney. His uniform remains crisp, but his composure is cracking. This is a setup, he insists, pacing the small conference room. They sent him to trap me. They wanted this outcome from the beginning. They sent him to observe, his attorney corrects, reviewing the evidence file. Your actions created the evidence. These are your words, your orders, your decisions. I was maintaining standards, Reed argues, his voice rising. Standards that have produced the world's elite warriors for decades. By humiliating a decorated veteran? By falsifying security protocols? The attorney looks up from the file. By referring to minority candidates as diversity quotas in official assessments? Reed's face hardens. Those comments were private evaluations. They were in official records, the attorney counters, pushing a document across the table. And they directly contradict Navy policy. Moreover, the evidence suggests a pattern of discrimination affecting advancement rates for minority candidates. Reed slams his hand on the table. My training produces results. My operators are battle-ready. At what cost? The attorney asks pointedly. Your statistical washout rate for minorities is double the norm across all SEAL training facilities. The Navy can't defend that disparity, especially when performance data shows no quality difference between those who succeed. Meanwhile, the base buzzes with the revelation of Samuel's true identity. Wilson finds himself surrounded by fellow trainees seeking information in the barracks. Is it true? One asks, leaning in. Reed's being court-martialed? Wilson keeps his voice low, aware of ears everywhere. Nothing's official, but Master Chief Thomas gathered serious evidence today. I saw some of it firsthand. Did you know who he was the whole time? Another trainee asks, eyes wide. Wilson shakes his head. Not until I saw the trident, but I knew something was wrong with how the commander treated him. The disrespect didn't match protocol for any observer. A trainee from Reed's inner circle pushes through the group. Reed was protecting our standards. Thomas is just pushing a political agenda. Next thing you know, they'll be lowering physical requirements. Wilson stands his ground. Is discrimination part of our standards? Is lying to command? Is abusing authority? That's not what I signed up to defend. The argument grows heated until an instructor intervenes. That's enough. We're SEALs. We adapt and overcome. Whatever happens with Commander Reed, our mission continues. The program is bigger than any individual. In the command center, Samuel reviews personnel files with Sullivan. Digital records illuminate their faces in the dimming light. Most instructors are solid, Samuel notes, highlighting names. The problem is isolated but significant. These 5 have been systematically weeding out qualified candidates based on demographics, not performance. Sullivan nods grimly. We'll implement your recommendations immediately. Oversight protocols, anonymous reporting channels, external reviews. And training reform, Samuel adds, pulling up a document on screen. The program I designed 15 years ago has been corrupted. The fundamentals remain sound, but the implementation has drifted. We maintain physical standards while eliminating bias. Sullivan looks troubled. Some will claim we're lowering standards. That argument will come, guaranteed. Samuel's response is firm. Standards without values aren't standards at all. They're just obstacles designed to keep people out instead of building them up. True standards challenge everyone equally while building warriors of character. As evening approaches, Reed is confined to quarters pending investigation. His attorney delivers the news as darkness falls. The preliminary hearing is scheduled for 0800 tomorrow. Admiral Harrington will preside personally. Reed paces the small room. This destroys my career, everything I've built. The evidence is substantial, the attorney admits, closing his briefcase. Your best option is to accept responsibility and request leniency based on your prior service record. Reed stops pacing, facing his attorney. And if I fight? The investigation has expanded beyond today's incidents. They're reviewing your entire command history. Former trainees have already come forward with additional allegations that corroborate the pattern. Fighting will only expose more. Reed sits heavily on the edge of his bunk. This was a coordinated takedown. This was accountability, the attorney corrects, moving toward the door. Long overdue, according to the evidence. Consider your options carefully before morning. As Samuel prepares his final report, he receives an urgent message. Reed has requested a private meeting before tomorrow's hearing. Morning light streams into the conference room where Samuel waits, his reflection sharp against the polished table. Reed enters under escort, his uniform impeccable but his eyes haunted from a sleepless night. The contrast between his pressed appearance and his inner turmoil is stark. 5 minutes, the guard announces before stepping outside, the door clicking shut. Reed sits across from Samuel, tension radiating from his rigid posture. You set me up. I observed, Samuel corrects, voice calm. You provided all the evidence yourself. Every action, every word, every decision was yours alone. You could have identified yourself, Reed argues, leaning forward, announced your rank and history. Would that have shown me the real Alexander Reed? Samuel asks. Or a careful performance tailored for a superior officer? Reed's jaw tightens visibly. I've given everything to this program, 16 years of service. Except fairness, Samuel notes. Except honor. The very values the program was built to instill. I maintained standards when everyone wanted to water them down, Reed insists, a hint of desperation creeping into his voice. Samuel leans forward, eyes locked with Reed's. I wrote those standards, Commander. They were never about excluding people who look different. They were about finding those with the heart to serve, regardless of appearance. About building warriors whose character matches their physical capabilities. Reed looks away first, unable to hold Samuel's gaze. Times have changed. Values haven't, Samuel counters firmly. Courage, honor, commitment. Where were those values when you humiliated me? When you falsified reports? When you drove out qualified candidates because they didn't fit your image of a warrior? Reed has no answer, his hands clasped tightly on the table. Samuel continues, his tone softening slightly. I reviewed your record thoroughly. You're an excellent tactical trainer. Your technical knowledge is outstanding. But you failed the most important test of leadership, character under pressure. What happens now? Reed asks, vulnerability breaking through his facade. That depends on you, Samuel responds. Accept responsibility, make amends, help us reform the program, or fight and lose everything. The evidence doesn't leave middle ground. Reed studies him, confusion evident. Why offer me any path forward? You could crush me completely. Because I believe in redemption, Samuel answers simply. And because wasting talent serves no one. Not the Navy, not the country, not the program. The hearing convenes in the base's largest conference room precisely at 0800. Admiral Harrington presides from a raised platform, with JAG officers flanking him and Captain Sullivan to the side. The room is filled with officers and senior enlisted personnel, the atmosphere tense with anticipation. Reed stands at attention, facing the panel. Samuel sits in the front row, his presence a reminder of how this began. Lieutenant Commander Alexander Reed, Admiral Harrington begins, his voice filling the room. You face serious allegations of conduct unbecoming an officer, discrimination, abuse of authority, and falsification of official records. These charges reflect actions unbefitting the standards of the United States Navy. How do you plead? The room holds its breath. Reed straightens his shoulders, standing even taller. Guilty, Admiral. Murmurs ripple through the room. Harrington calls for silence with a sharp gesture. I failed to uphold the standards and values of the Navy and the SEAL program, Reed continues, his voice steady despite the admission. I allowed personal bias to corrupt my judgment and influence my command decisions. There is no justification for my actions. The Admiral studies him, eyes narrowed. Your service record shows exemplary tactical leadership. Your technical evaluations are consistently superior. What happened, Commander? Reed glances at Samuel before answering. I mistook uniformity for unity, Admiral. I believed maintaining tradition meant rejecting change. I confused standards with barriers. And now? Harrington presses, leaning forward slightly. Now I recognize that true strength comes from diversity of background and thought, united by shared values. Reed responds with growing conviction. I request the opportunity to make amends and contribute to reforming the program I damaged. The Admiral confers briefly with the JAG officers before addressing Reed again. Your honesty is noted and will be considered in our determination. You are hereby relieved of command, reduced in rank to lieutenant, and will serve as advisor to the Training Reform Committee under Master Chief Thomas's direction. Your future in the Navy depends on your contributions to that effort. Dismissed. As Reed exits, his former supporters avoid his gaze while others watch with satisfied expressions. The fall is swift and public, exactly as his humiliation of Samuel had been. Samuel approaches him outside in the corridor. That couldn't have been easy, Samuel acknowledges, genuine respect in his voice. Easier than living with dishonor, Reed responds, a weight visibly lifting from his shoulders. When do we start? Tomorrow, Samuel tells him. Euro 600. The real work begins. As news of Reed's demotion spreads through naval channels, Samuel's phone rings with a call from Washington. Master Chief, the Secretary wants to expand your mission. This goes beyond one training facility. 3 months later, Samuel stands before the Naval Special Warfare Command Leadership Council in a secure conference room at the Pentagon. Screens line the walls, displaying comprehensive data from all SEAL training facilities nationwide. The room holds the highest-ranking officers responsible for special operations across all branches. The audit identified systemic issues across 7 training centers, Samuel explains, advancing through data visualizations that highlight troubling patterns. Discrimination wasn't universal but existed in patterns consistent with Commander Reed's approach, concentrated around specific instructors with outdated mindsets. Admiral Harrington nods from his position at the head of the table. Your recommended reforms? Be specific. Samuel gestures to his team standing along the wall, which includes Wilson, now an ensign after completing training with distinction, and surprisingly, Reed himself in his reduced rank. Standardized oversight protocols, Samuel begins, as bullet points appear on screen. Anonymous reporting systems that protect whistleblowers from retaliation. Regular external assessment by diverse evaluation teams composed of both active and retired operators. Revised performance metrics that measure character alongside physical capability, with emphasis on team cohesion under pressure. A senior commander from the West Coast Training Division raises his hand. These changes risk diluting standards that have produced elite warriors for generations. The physical requirements exist for battlefield reasons. With respect, Admiral, Reed interjects, stepping forward. I made that same argument for years. I was wrong. The room stirs at his admission. These reforms strengthen standards by ensuring they're applied fairly. The physical requirements remain identical. What changes is who gets a fair chance to meet them. The commander looks surprised at Reed's position, his objection faltering. Samuel continues, advancing to the next slide. We've implemented these changes at 3 training centers as a pilot program. Results after 3 months show improved unit cohesion, maintained physical excellence, and increased retention of qualified candidates from all backgrounds. He displays before and after statistics that can't be disputed. Performance metrics remain unchanged or show slight improvement. What's changed is who gets the opportunity to meet them. We're identifying talent that was previously excluded by unconscious bias. The Secretary of Defense is watching this program closely, Admiral Harrington informs the group, scanning the room. Success here becomes the model for all service branches. Special Operations leads the way, as always. After presenting additional data, the Council votes unanimously to implement the reforms across all naval special warfare training programs. The decision marks a turning point in military training philosophy. Later that day, Samuel meets with Reed and Wilson in the same training area where their confrontation began 3 months earlier. The setting sun casts long shadows across the obstacle course. The new training cycle starts tomorrow, Samuel notes, watching candidates prepare equipment for the next day. The most diverse class in program history. Reed nods, a different man than he was months ago. And they'll face the same physical standards as always. Every obstacle, every swim, every run, unchanged. But with fair opportunity to meet them, Wilson adds, his new officer insignia catching the light. Without artificial barriers. A group of instructors approaches, led by the older instructor who first recognized Samuel months ago. Master Chief, the new protocols are in place. All instructors have completed the training reform program as directed. And those who refused? Samuel asks, though he already knows the answer. Reassigned as directed, the instructor confirms without hesitation, to non-training positions. Samuel surveys the training ground that has both broken and built so many warriors. Our warriors deserve leaders worthy of their sacrifice, leaders who judge them by their heart, not their appearance. Wilson smiles. Like you judged me, Master Chief. I judged everyone equally, Samuel corrects. By their actions under pressure. That's the only measure that matters. Reed looks at the training course he once commanded with absolute authority. I still think about that day. How easily I revealed my character flaws when confronted with something outside my expectations. And how strongly you've worked to correct them, Samuel acknowledges, offering respect where it's been earned. Reed extends his hand. Thank you for the second chance, Master Chief. Samuel shakes it firmly. Thank you for proving it wasn't wasted. 1 year later, Samuel stands at the edge of the Olympic-sized training pool, watching a new class of SEAL candidates. The morning sun glints off the water's surface as instructors call out commands. The group includes men and women of diverse backgrounds, all pushing their limits under the watchful eyes of instructors who demand excellence without prejudice. Wilson, now a full lieutenant and training officer, approaches in his uniform. Master Chief, good to see you back on base. Just checking on my investment, Samuel responds with a slight smile, eyes never leaving the trainees. They observe a female trainee completing an underwater exercise with perfect form, emerging with controlled breathing. Nearby, a black candidate leads his boat crew through a synchronized maneuver that demonstrates natural leadership. Retention rates up 17%, Wilson reports with quiet pride. Performance metrics holding steady or improving in most categories, and complaints of discriminatory treatment down to almost zero. Samuel nods, satisfaction evident in his expression. And Reed? Leading the expanded reform program at Coronado, Wilson answers. His experience makes him effective at identifying resistance and converting skeptics. Having been on the other side, he recognizes the arguments and knows how to counter them effectively. A senior instructor calls the trainees out of the water. Samuel recognizes him as one who once followed Reed's example. Now he treats each candidate with the same demanding but respectful approach, focusing on performance rather than preconceptions. The culture shift is taking hold, Samuel observes, noting the subtle but significant changes in how instructions are given, how feedback is delivered. Your methods work, Wilson confirms. Judge actions, not appearances. Demand excellence, but provide equal opportunity to achieve it. The results speak for themselves. They walk toward the command building, passing a wall of honor displaying SEAL heroes throughout history. Samuel's photo has been added, alongside a quote that has become the program's unofficial motto. Character is the ultimate weapon. Inside, Captain Sullivan welcomes them to his office, rising from behind his desk. Master Chief, the Pentagon called this morning. The training reform program has been designated as the standard for all special operations forces across all branches. Army, Air Force, Marines, they're all implementing your model. Samuel accepts the news with characteristic calm. Change takes time to solidify. We need at least another year of consistent implementation before declaring success. Always focused on the mission, Sullivan smiles, shaking his head. The Secretary of Defense disagrees. She believes it's time to publicize the success. Show the country that excellence and equality strengthen each other rather than competing. Samuel considers this, as long as the standards remain intact. They have, Wilson assures him. That was always the key. We didn't lower the bar. We removed the extra weights some candidates were forced to carry while still expecting them to clear the same height. Sullivan hands Samuel a folder bearing the presidential seal. The president is presenting you with the Presidential Medal of Freedom next month. The ceremony will highlight how the program transformed from Reed's discrimination to a model of meritocracy. Reed should be recognized too, Samuel says, surprising them both. His transformation is as important as my investigation. Perhaps more so. It shows the possibility of change. Redemption as powerful as revelation, Wilson muses. Exactly, Samuel agrees. This was never about punishment. It was about progress. Later, Samuel walks alone on the beach near the training grounds. The setting sun casts long shadows as trainees run past in formation, their cadence echoing across the sand. Their voices rise together, unified despite their differences. He stops to watch them, these future warriors being forged through challenge and respect. Among them are faces that would never have made it through under the old system, not because they lacked ability, but because they faced barriers others didn't. Samuel remembers his own training decades ago, the obstacles he overcame, the peers who didn't believe he belonged, the commanders who saw past his skin to the warrior beneath, how much harder he had to work to earn the same recognition. A young trainee breaks from the group, approaches him with respect. Master Chief Thomas, I just wanted to say thank you. My father tried 3 times to get through this program in the 90s. He was always told he wasn't SEAL material. Because of your reforms, I got a fair shot. Samuel nods, watching the determination in the young man's eyes. Honor his struggle by upholding the standard. Excellence has no color, no gender, just heart. As the trainee rejoins his squad, Samuel reflects on the year's journey. From humiliation in the mud to systemic change. From one man's bias to institutional transformation. The hardest battles aren't always fought against external enemies, but against entrenched thinking that limits potential. The most powerful weapon isn't found in our arsenals. It's found in our character. Did you feel the power of this justice story? If you enjoyed this tale of resilience, courage, and fairness like A Quiet Older Black Man, hit that like button and subscribe to Beat Stories right now. Every week, we bring you new emotionally charged stories with powerful life lessons. Don't miss our next video dropping soon. Turn on notifications so you never miss out on stories that inspire, challenge, and move you. Join our growing community of storytelling lovers who crave narratives with depth, purpose, and satisfying endings. Beat Stories, where every character has a voice. Subscribe now.